Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Silent Shenanigans podcast. Today, you're with Jacob Maggard
Alton Phillips.
and today we're going to be talking about a recap of week two. Had a pretty good week here. A lot of fun games, a lot of excitement. I posted all of our picks on a community post in the YouTube channel. We weren't able to get a video out last week. I was a little bit under the weather going into filming day, and it just didn't sound the greatest. So I didn't want to put out a poor product, but should definitely be on pace to make a video on Thursday for this week and talk about next week's picks. But let's go ahead and get into it because this week has some pretty awesome games.
Wild games starting off hot here.
Yeah, starting off with a crazy upset. Northern
Maybe
Illinois.
one of the bigger upsets of all time.
Yeah, I mean, four touchdown underdogs. Northern Illinois comes into Notre Dame and beats them at their home stadium. I mean, this is like one of those games that's going to change the college football landscape this year because Notre Dame coming into this game had the easiest remaining chance or the highest remaining chance to go undefeated on the season. So they were the most likely team to go undefeated the rest of the way.
And this actually, I think, ranked that NIU team, didn't it? I'm pretty sure they
Yeah,
got
NIU is now
24, right?
AP poll 25 now.
Oh, 25. Okay, but so that's a bit wild for them to be ranked. I haven't seen them be ranked in a long time.
But looking at the stats, I mean, NIU, Ethan Hampton, quarterback, he didn't have to do a ton. I mean, 10 for 19, 198 and a touchdown. He didn't have to do a lot. He didn't make any mistakes. He played smart with the ball. And it was really just about NIU just controlling the game. They ran the ball really well, as you can see looking at the stats. Then on the opposite side, Notre Dame passing wise, Riley Leonard was also just passing the ball
Yeah,
well, but
the ball
turned
well.
it
Turn the
twice.
ball too much. You can't do that.
You can't throw two picks in a game
No,
against IU.
no. Because
Uh,
what's he going to do against a good team?
yeah, I mean, running the ball for Northern Illinois, Ontario Brown, Gavin Williams, both great
Yeah,
games. 20 for 99, 5 yard average, 17 for 59 from your backup with a 3.5 yard average. They run the ball for 190 yards in this
yeah,
game.
almost 200-yard game from just running the ball. That's pretty good.
And Notre Dame lost this game because they don't have skill positions surrounding Riley Leonard.
Yeah.
I mean, he made the mistakes throwing the two picks, but the skills in that game didn't play good enough for them to win.
But and you to be able to throw the ball to somebody, you have to be able to trust them. Like if you don't have an athlete out there that you can trust to throw the ball, you're more than likely to throw. You should expect to throw more interceptions because I mean you need like that one dominant receiver you can just rely on that third down situation.
And they don't have that this year. They don't have a trustworthy top tier option to go to in the offense this year. And that was kind of a concern coming into this game or coming into the season in general,
Yeah.
that they didn't have a top tier playmaker other than Riley Leonard being the quarterback. But yeah, I mean, exciting game. We'll see what NIU can do the rest of the year, but this is, I mean, a huge shot at Notre Dame. Another big game here. Houston and Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma, of course, is one of those teams in the SEC that a lot of people think can make a wave in the SEC,
Yeah.
be a pretty good
Make a
football
run
team.
for it.
Definitely, a lot of people have them picked to be a team out of the SEC making the playoff. Houston, on the other hand, 0-2 start to the year, not very good, but they did hang in there with Oklahoma, which can scare you off Oklahoma a little
Yep.
bit. Statistically, Houston's quarterback played pretty daggone well. I mean, he made the one mistake with the interception, but 260 and a touchdown. He threw really accurate passer here. Houston's problem, can't run the ball. Couldn't run the ball that whole game. And then on the other side, Oklahoma, Jackson Arnold stepping in, taking over for KJ Jefferson as he goes to UCF. And he goes 174, two touchdowns and a pick, made that one mistake, but it was just enough in that game to win that
Get you
game.
through. Yeah.
But play like that against an SEC opponent,
You're not winning. You won't win. No.
Um, but I mean, other than that, not a lot to talk about. It was a good game. It was a defensive game, of course, a 12-16 ball game. And Oklahoma did force a safety in this game. But yeah, that's an interesting one to look at because you're looking at a top 15 team in Oklahoma, and they were on the ropes against Houston. This one, I mean,
It was a blowout. It should be worse than that, in my opinion.
it wasn't even close. Yeah, it wasn't even close. I mean, Quinn Ewers took a step in the offseason. He looks like the best quarterback in the country right now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
on the other hand, Michigan, Davis Warren, the walk-on. I mean, he ain't it.
No, he's not it.
He's not horrible, but he just ain't it.
No.
He's not going to win you football games in a big power conference. I mean, 204, one touchdown, two picks. That's two mistakes you can't make against
No.
that.
Against the number one team in the nation, in my opinion. I think them. I think they're a top two team. I wouldn't say number one. I'd say two.
Yeah, them and
But
Georgia.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, 100%.
They have definitely separated themselves as the two best teams in the country.
Yeah.
Ewers goes 24 for 36. That's a 66% completion percentage. That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Almost 250 passing, 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's a great game. Some of the throws he made a throw in the first half where he stepped up in the pocket and he just unleashed a missile straight to the end zone. And it was so clean. I mean, he stepped up around the pressure and it didn't look like it phased him at all. And he throws a perfect pass for a touchdown. Running the ball, Texas. Jarrett Gibson was their lead back last week, and then Contravion Wisner, he also ran pretty well in this game. They had a good little mixed attack on the run game, and then
Yeah.
of course
they spread the ball out quite a bit. That's a lot of
yeah, they have
different
weapons.
carries. That's good.
And then for Michigan, running the ball, Khalil Mullings was the lead back last week. He only had 6 carries in this game, but they were down by so much they couldn't run the ball.
You have to pass the ball at the point how bad they were getting beat.
Yeah, and then Donovan Edwards, 8 for 41, better than last week, but still, again, he just kind of got limited in this game because they were down so early. Other notable things to talk about: Michigan, Colston Loveland's still a stud. I mean, 8 catches, 70 yards, but he's kind of their best player offensively.
You got to have a quarterback to give him the ball. It's like
Yeah.
you have to have that. They don't really have it right now.
Texas, of course, Bond's the big transfer, and then Gunnar Helm played really well, 7 catches, 98 yards. But yeah, this was a good game. We both got this one right. Texas was who we both picked, and I think that was an easy pick. Truthfully, I think Texas is.
I didn't think Michigan was that good of a football team. I mean,
Yeah,
I
they're a
think
little overrated. I mean,
yeah.
it's coming off of a national championship, so they're going to get that early hype. But they definitely are a little overrated. I think they still could end up being a good football team, a ranked football team, but it's not a playoff team.
They need to figure out the offensive situation, like with the quarterback and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they'll be a decent football team if they do that.
I mean, Georgia Tech, Syracuse. This was one a lot of people were picking that upset and saying Georgia Tech couldn't carry the momentum into that game, and they did not carry the momentum into the game. They played well.
a good game. Yeah.
They only lost by 3 points at Syracuse, which is, again, we mentioned last week, a terribly difficult place to play in the Carrier Dome. Syracuse now 2-0 in the conference. This is a team that a lot of people are saying should be ranked right now. Kyle McCord, Ohio State transfer, phenomenal game. I mean, he looked amazing. 32 for 46, 381, 4 touchdowns. He had weapons all over the field. Multiple receivers contributed in this game. Of course, our tight end's one of the best in the country, Gadsden. He's a monster. I mean, and he isn't, like we talked about, he's not in the running.
No, he's not in the running for it.
And look at this game from a tight end: 6 for 93 and 2 touchdowns.
That's a good stat line for a tight end.
Yeah. Georgia Tech did get contribution from Eric Singleton this game. I mean, 5 for 86. Their best receiver played well. And, Haynes King ran the ball really well. 6 carries, 67 yards, 2 touchdowns. Where they lacked was their run game in general wasn't as good against a Syracuse team that wasn't good against the run last week. And I kind of thought that would be a strong
suit. That's what I thought was going to be the strong suit for Georgia Tech there. That's why I picked
that's why I ended up picking Georgia Tech, even though it was on the road. But yeah, I mean, this was a fun game, and I still think both teams are going to compete in the ACC. But Syracuse definitely gets that one-ups now on Georgia Tech in a situation where it comes down to the end of the year and teams are fighting for that conference championship spot. This was also another great football game. I mean, early on, Arkansas was running away with it. I mean, they stepped in and had a huge lead to start the game. Their offense looked really, really good. They were just constantly moving the ball down the field. I mean, as you can see, Taylon Green.
It was a great game.
416 yards. Now, he did make a mistake with his pick, and he wasn't extremely accurate or efficient. But 416 is still –
that speaks for itself, yeah.
He also ran the ball really well, 18 carries for 61 yards, and they do have some design runs for him because he is a super athletic quarterback.
Hard guy to tackle.
But, I mean, the story of this game, Jaquindon Jackson. I mean, look at his stats.
Yeah, speaks for itself.
Jaquindon Jackson goes 24 for 149, 3 touchdowns. He easily outperforms Ollie Gordon, and Ollie Gordon is a phenomenal talent. And, I mean, Arkansas looked good, and they still lost. That just shows you that veteran football team in Oklahoma State. I mean,
even with Ollie Gordon not playing that well, they still somehow pulled the.
They still win, and they won in double overtime. Again, Alan Bowman, he is good enough to win them football games when the run game ain't there. And the run game in this game was not there. Ollie goes 17 for 49, only 2.9 yards per carry. They have a total of 59 rushing yards and win.
That's terrible.
And win.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a great game. This was one that was a nail biter, obviously coming down to a double overtime win for Oklahoma State, and it keeps their season going. And they still look like a pretty good team. And they definitely can fight for a conference championship in that conference. Next game, I'll let you lead on this one because this was
I had Iowa going into this game. I felt like just them having the home field advantage there and then being able to control the clock and everything would have affected this game quite a bit. But Iowa State, they came in and showed them what was up. Iowa State's quarterback, Rocco Becht, he had a pretty good game there with going 23 for 35. I mean, that's not like fantastic numbers, but I mean, that's good enough to win you a ball game, and they did. And
yeah, he played well. I mean, Rocco Becht played as good as you need him to play to win a game against a ranked opponent, and especially in a rivalry game against Iowa. He's coming in. It's his first season as a starter, and he looks like a pretty good starter. So,
yeah. On the other side, Iowa's passing attack wasn't as good, with only 99 yards, which would I'd expect. But the 2 interceptions, that kills you there.
yeah,
When you're known as a running team, I mean, and look at the running back. Like, if you have a running back going for almost 200 yards, you don't take the ball away from him.
yeah. This is an interesting one because it looked like Iowa needed the passing game in this game. They had a lead going into the fourth. Iowa State does make the comeback and ends up winning it, but Iowa actually had the early lead. I mean, they went into halftime up 13-0.
And that should be the point where you should just give it to your running back and just let him do what he wants to do.
And they were doing in the first half, they were controlling the clock. They were consistently controlling the clock down the field. I mean, Caleb Johnson, phenomenal game. Like you said, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns. He played really well, but McNamara, he just wasn't it. I mean, 2 picks, you can't have that. You cannot have the 2 turnovers. If he doesn't throw 2 picks, even with as bad of a game as he had, they don't lose.
No, because if you don't throw 2 interceptions there, I mean, you can just keep running. You can run the ball and you can take time off the clock. That's 3 minutes off the clock with the possession if you don't throw picks there.
For Iowa State, Jalen Noel plays phenomenal again. He was really good last week as well. He stepped up and clearly looks like the number 1 receiver in this offense. On the other side of the ball, Reese Vanderzee was the guy that played really well last week for Iowa, and obviously, as you can see, he only had 1 reception for 10 yards. But again, they just couldn't get the passing game going all game. I mean, again, you can chalk this one up as just Iowa not having a passing attack. Their offense just wasn't there in that game to win it. Defense performed again. It just wasn't enough. Next game. This was an entertaining one as well. You had a Baylor team that at halftime, it was looking like a rout. I mean, they were down 23-3 at halftime. But they come out in the second half. The defense played phenomenal. They did look like a pretty competent football team in the second half. But it just wasn't. It was so far.
The offense couldn't get going. The offense couldn't really get going at all.
The game was already gone coming into the third quarter. It was already a 23-3 football game, and you're playing a Utah team that can run the ball. So they're going to control clock, and they have a pretty good defense. I mean, looking at the stats, DeQuan Finn, 9 for 21. That's awful. He goes for 115 and a touchdown. He also he didn't run. I mean, he didn't run well, but a lot of those were sacks. But 13 for 7 yards is pretty awful. On the other side, Cam Rising also didn't have a crazy football game.
No.
Cam Rising played well, I guess. I mean, 8 for 14, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. He didn't have to do a whole lot.
You can rely on your running game.
As you can see on the side here, he did leave the game with a hand injury. So Isaac Wilson, I assume, finished the game there. I didn't see the end of that one. But that is a little scary for Utah. If they don't have Cam Rising, and he was hurt last year, they are not a competitor, in my opinion. They have to have Cam Rising to be a competitor in the conference. As you can see, another thing to talk about, Baylor runs the ball well. I mean, that's not a bad game at all from their lead back, but it's pretty rough from every other running back on the roster, including quarterback. He also did not have a good game running the ball. But their lead back runs well.
7 yards carry, that's good.
Yeah, great, honestly.
Yeah.
Then on the other side, I mean, Utah, Micah Bernard, he runs really well, 19 for 118. Dejon Stanley was the guy that had the crazy game last week. He didn't do a whole lot in this game, but it's just it was a team effort, and Utah took a huge lead. Now the second half was scary. No points.
No points scored by them in the second half.
But they did get themselves a huge lead, and that's why they went with a win here.
And Baylor just couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, Baylor couldn't figure it out on offense.
No.
Next game, I mean, I wanted to believe in the Colorado hype.
I do it.
It's just not. I mean, that team is not good enough to compete, and they have so much talent. It's just they're lacking talent in important positions, such as
the offensive line.
Such as the running game being abysmal running game. Their defense was awful in the first half, although they did play a good second half.
Yep.
It just They don't have it. They don't have it, man. That team is just not good enough to
It
win.
doesn't matter how good Shadur and Travis play. You can't win ball games with
They're
just
not
two.
going to win. Yeah, they're not going to beat good football teams. It's not even at the point where they're not beating great football teams. They're just not even beating good football teams.
No.
Nebraska, Dylan Raiola, good game, 23 for 30, consistent, 185 and a touchdown. He did what he needed to do as a freshman to win. The run game was good, and so that helps out your quarterback, and it takes a lot of stress off him in that game. Shadur, now, this is nowhere near what he did last week. He was really good last week. This week, you could argue he wasn't amazing. He did throw a pick six, and that was a huge mistake. He just kind of forced a pass on the sideline, got picked it off, runs it back for a touchdown. He goes for 244 and a touchdown. Besides that, that's pretty solid, but the pick six hurt a ton. And then, of course, the run game, it's non-existent.
Not there, no.
It's non-existent. They don't run the ball. And then, of course, Shadur took a ton of sacks in this game. Their O-line.
Offensive line, it's so bad.
Travis Hunter balls out again, 10 for
He's
110.
1-2. I mean,
Amazing. He's an amazing football player. Any other team in the country would be so happy to have him. I mean, he does everything right. For Nebraska, didn't have crazy contribution from anybody. Ramir Johnson has a good game with 8 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown. The story of this game is that Colorado is not ready to compete against good football teams yet.
no, they can't.
They haven't built the program up to compete with teams. Next game. This was what Clemson needed. This
huge
is
game for
exactly
Clemson.
what Clemson needed. I mean, 66 points. They drop the most points they've ever scored in a half under Dabo in the first half. And App State gets run out the building. It's not close. And App State is not a horrible non-Power 4 school. They're actually really consistent outside the Power 5. But, I mean, Clemson is – they looked back in this game, which, yes, it is App State, but it is unbelievable how well Cade Klubnik played.
Klubnik played great.
I mean, he showed up after all the calls for him not being a good enough quarterback for them to win games. He really showed up in this game. I mean, 24 for 26. First of all, phenomenal completion percentage. 378, 5 touchdowns. He sliced and diced the App State.
Great game. That's a starting quarterback numbers there.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff you needed
I still don't see it in him though. Like I don't see like that spark that a starting quarterback should have. Even with that game, I don't know.
Well, he doesn't show it against the super competitive football teams.
He shows out against sub teams.
Yeah, he shows it against these teams that just aren't as competitive. On the other side, App State, Aguilar has it's a pretty bad game. I mean, 18 for 41 is awful completion percentage. He goes for 214, which isn't bad, and a touchdown. He doesn't turn the ball over, but they do have 2 picks on 2 passes from anyone other than him, which is what are they doing?
Yeah, that's
trickery against Clemson is a bold decision.
Yeah.
Running the ball. App State truly ran the ball decently well. I mean, 149, averaging 5.5 yards per carry. It almost seems like that maybe should have done that more, and they let the game get way out of hand, so they couldn't do it more. Clemson, Phil Maffa is awesome. Phil Maffa did look like the guy they needed him to look like. 10 carries, 118, and a touchdown. I mean, the dude's a bruiser. He runs so hard.
He win ball games.
Yeah, but this Clemson football team is better than they looked last week. But again, like you said, I still don't think they're on the same level as those upper echelon teams.
Yeah. And App State rolled off of an ETSU team that's not good. So that's like that's a hard game to play right after you play like an opponent like that. I mean, that's a wake up call right there. Hopefully, I enjoy watching App State.
This one was such an awesome football game. Such a great game. This is one of those that I was so happy it was at nighttime so I could sit down and watch this game because it was such a good football game. You have 2 teams that are obviously both very good football teams. Oregon picks up and looks way better on offense than they did last week. And it wasn't really that their offense looked bad last week. It was just they weren't consistently scoring points. And then Boise State, again, looks phenomenal on offense.
Jeanty is a stud.
Jeanty. Let's look at this stat line.
Yeah. God.
That's ridiculous. 25 for 192, 3 touchdowns against an Oregon football team that is a top 5 team in the country, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he makes it look easy.
He's on pace to have the best running back season of all time right now.
Yeah, he's on pace for 2,800 yards and 51 touchdowns.
That is ridiculous. That's quarterback numbers. That's quarterback passing numbers.
Well, if he does that, that is one of the greatest. It is probably the greatest.
I think it is the greatest season of all time.
One of the greatest Heisman seasons ever.
Yeah.
Yes, Ashton Jeanty will win them football games when they are not supposed to win them, as he almost did in this one. Oregon goes down and wins it at the end on a final drive, but it was just a crazy game. I think Oregon returned a kickoff for a touchdown, and Boise did a couple unique things. It was just a very unique football game on top of it being a good football game. Maddox Madsen, he didn't do enough in the passing game for them to win. He didn't make mistakes though, which is good.
Yeah, 1740 is not good, but I mean, not throwing interceptions good. But
Yeah, he protected the ball with those 40 pass attempts. On the other side, Oregon, Dylan Gabriel looks really good again, 18 for 21, 243. Nothing, nothing like the 40
not crazy, but just
but 2 touchdowns, and then Oregon does run the ball really well again. Jordan James has another good game, 17 for 102. Again, talking point in this game is, to me, right now, if I was picking a non-power 4 school to make the playoff, it is
Boise State.
because I think Boise has a good enough offense besides Genty to win games, even if someone can key in on him. I think they can still win a game if he isn't amazing. If he's just good, they can still win a football game.
And him being good's 100 yards for him right now.
Yeah.
That's just him being good.
And then for Oregon, Tez Johnson does nothing. 3 for -1. One of their best receivers. Evan Stewart does go off, however, with 5 and 112. Then they have Trayshawn Holden. They have Terrence Ferguson. They have so many good receivers.
Athletes everywhere.
That Gabriel can get the ball to. Ferguson was, of course, their lead receiver last week. Evan Stewart is the lead receiver this week. They're a scary football team when their offense is rolling. But yeah, I think that was a good game.
Yep.
This one, I know you love it. I know you love every second of it.
Oh, I loved every bit of it. Yep.
Obviously, we'll let you lead on this one.
Well, Nico didn't have like that crazy of a game. Somehow he won SEC Freshman of the Week. I seen that this morning. I was like, I don't know about that. But like, I mean, Dylan Sampson ran the ball. He has what he's been doing. He's done fine. He did last week too. Got 130 yards this week too. So I'm just thinking. I mean, our offense is good. I mean, it shows that we don't even have to have that great of a offensive performance by our quarterback to win ball games like that. Because the NC State team is good. Like,
yeah, the NC State team is not
very good.
They're not one of the top tier,
but
super opponents. But they were still a ranked football team.
To score 51 points on a team like that
exactly.
and only give up 10 shows that we're like. I think we're in that top 5 mark. That's where I'm thinking we're at right now.
I think I would have them just outside that. I would have them just outside.
We're at 7. That's fair. I believe in that right now because I mean, like Nico didn't have a great game, throwing 2 interceptions. He still had 211 yards. I mean, that's a good game. But the 2 interceptions kind of cancels that out a little bit. But we have so many like air receiving course phenomenal. I mean, athletes everywhere, like kind of an Oregon team. We have athletes that can get the ball everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
like Squirrel White. I mean, Dylan Sampson caught the ball out of the backfield again. I mean, he's Dylan Sampson. I'm not gonna lie. I'm seeing all SEC running back right there because
he's great so far.
Yes, and he's been phenomenal.
You didn't even have to have a great game out of Brazil or Brew McCoy, and you still
we still killed them. Yeah. I mean, that shows how dominant our defense is because I mean, people were like hating on our defense. I mean, obviously they're going to like Pierce because Pierce is a stud. He's the best player in college football, in my opinion. Obviously,
easily one of.
Yeah, okay, but like that just shows that we're able to like compete against high level opponents because everybody's like, oh, it's Chattanooga. I mean, oh, it's NC State, and we just killed them.
No, it was a great showing for them. To talk about NC State, no run game, non-existent. Tennessee's defense completely shut.
D-line is tough.
NC State's passing, McCall, he has 15 for 22, but it's 104. I mean, it means he's not getting the ball down the field very much. He obviously didn't look great in this game, but their weapons really didn't show up. I mean, Concepcion, 5 for 53. You got to get that guy the ball more. Other than that, I mean, McCall had 2 fumbles. That's a crucial mistake.
That's terrible. Yeah, you can't do that.
It's just NC State's defense couldn't get a stop, and
Tennessee looks really good.
It's just great offensively, especially because, like you said, Nico didn't have to play phenomenal, and they beat him by 41 points.
Yep.
Again, Tech comes out slow in the first half, and they look awful. Me and Dalton were there. First half it's pitiful play calling. I hate to say that because he is one of our own, but it was just pitiful play calling in the first half, in my opinion. Now, Drones didn't play as great in the first as he has in other games, but I think it was more about we didn't open up the offense and allow him to make plays until the second half, where, again, once he got open and started letting him make plays, we scored 21 points straight in the second half when we come out. He looks great. He looks great. We open up the offense. The passing game looks good. We take a deep shot. Gosnell makes a crazy catch. It opens up everything else opens up. The run game was amazing in the second half, but it was just like we limited the offense in the first half again for whatever reason. It's twice now that Tech has come out and played an awful first half, and it
Slow.
almost looks like it's all due to play calling.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically, Stone Earl was not good.
No.
He goes for 131 and a touchdown. He threw the pick, which was a tip ball that Delane picked off, which another guy I want to give some props to is Mansour Delane because he struggled last week and he didn't let it get to him. He come out and he played really, really good this week. He had one catch on him, and it was a Sports Center top 10 catch.
That was one of the crazy.
Yeah.
That's probably the craziest catch I've ever seen in my life.
If
Like,
that's what you're going to give up in a game,
Yeah.
if you're going to play amazing and that's the one catch on you,
Yeah.
go for it. That's a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get mad at you for allowing that catch. I mean, the guy just made a crazy play. An insane catch.
Yeah.
Other stats for Marshall: AJ Turner does run the ball really well. All that come on that one big breakaway 70-yard rush, which they ended up scoring after. But Stone Earl, we got to him a lot. I think we sacked him 2 or 3 times in this game, but we were always up in his grill making him make plays, and he just wasn't making them.
I'm surprised they didn't put that tried another quarterback that game.
They didn't
I was
try
thinking
either
about that
of
the
their
whole
other
time.
quarterbacks, but I think that they've kind of settled in on Earl being the starter. So
Yeah, I guess you got to keep one guy in there to keep consistency. But I
Yeah.
mean, he didn't play that good. He didn't play a game at all. I didn't look good.
but we'll see if they play better against a team that's not coming out with some fire and some anger because Tech's defense played phenomenal in this game.
Yeah.
Tech's defense gave up 1 touchdown in my book because the other one come off a punt that got blocked and rolled to the 4-yard line. So the defense gave up a touchdown there, but what team doesn't score on the 4-yard line? Most of the
You're
time,
going to score there. Yeah, you're going to score there.
so I'm not even putting that on the defense. They played phenomenal. They played really, really well. They looked like an elite defense in that game. That's what we have to have because if we're going to come out slow and play offense like we're doing,
You got to shut people down.
I mean, if we can stick in the game in the first half and go in halftime up by 3, we can win games because our offense is going to come out in the second half and look like it does. What I think we need to do is just figure out how to
score on the first half.
The Tech's 2 second halves this year, Vanderbilt and Marshall, they look like a top 25 football team. Tech's 2 first halves this year, they don't look like an ACC football team.
No, they're looking like an American Conference football team.
It's a dynamic that I don't understand, but I'm hoping that they figure it out. Again, statistically, Drones goes 14 for 21. Most of the incompletions come in the first half. He plays a good second half. Again, I'd love to see him rip off 28 passes and not 21. But Bashal Tootin, dude's a beast. Dude's a beast. He's one of the best running backs in the ACC, no doubt. And Malachi Thomas, as a backup, also played phenomenally well. 9 for 52. I'm excited for him because he's going to be here again next year, hopefully. And that's another strong back that can just take over.
Fill Tootin's role.
Passing wise, again, Fitzpatrick was the one that had the crazy catch, I believe, on Mansour. He was good for them, but that was about all they had offensively. Again, Virginia Tech's offense, they look good here. I mean, Gosnell has 2 catches, 54 yards. He had the big catch, of course. Lane is a phenomenal athlete, 4 for 41. I would like to give him the ball more because what he did on a punt return in this game was extremely impressive. He gets kick catch interfered. They throw a flag on the field. He catches it anyways and starts running. Then he hits a gap where there's 3 Marshall defenders and he gets his helmet almost ripped off his head. And then he keeps going and scores a touchdown. That was the big momentum swing in that game. That's when I knew we were going to win that football game because Jalen Lane took over and did something when nobody else was doing anything. Defensively, again, like I said, we got to him a couple times, 2 sacks, a couple TFLs. But this was the kind of game they had to have. I would have liked 1 more touchdown, but I'm not being picky because the last 7 or 8 minutes of the game, we're just running the ball to run the game out and end the game. So we could have scored again if we'd have wanted to because the defense was just phenomenal. I mean, pretty much all game. 1 big breakout run play, 1 big catch, and that was about it. We didn't allow Marshall to do anything else on offense, and the running game really didn't do a lot to us, which I kind of worried about. So that was an exciting one to see. And I'm excited to see what they can do the rest of the year. I think that they continue to improve on offense, and I think this will be a good football team. I think it just takes constant improvement on offense and keeping the same production from your defense.
Yeah, it takes a good football team. I could still see them compete for the ACC.
Yeah, I think the ACC is open right now. I think it's an open conference. I think other than Miami, that's the only team that looked phenomenal.
Miami is nuts. Like, they're just crazy.
Yeah. And we got them in 3 weeks, so that's a real test. You go in there and you hang around with them. I think that's proving to yourself that you can compete in the conference. It's going to be it for us today, guys. I think College football so far has been pretty fun. I mean, through 2 weeks, we've had some really good games. We've had some really good players that stand out and look like superstars.
A lot of running backs.
Oh yeah, the running game is back in college football.
Yes.
Sure. And not that it hasn't been there. We've had some great running backs over the past couple of years, but it just seems like there's a multitude of really competitive running backs in the country right now, and a lot of the good football teams look like run heavy football teams. Um, again, the plan is we're gonna film a video hopefully on Wednesday, and should be out by Thursday or Friday. We're gonna make some picks for week 3, so I hope you guys will show up and watch that one with us. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody. Dalton, you have anything you want to add?
Thank y'all. I'm excited for the rest of the football season, and go Vols.
Yep, that's worth it. Hey, go Hokies, baby. We look good that game, and I'm hoping we can continue that progress. Again, thank you guys for watching. If you don't mind dropping a like and subscribing to us, that'd be greatly appreciated. And we'll see you guys on Thursday.